In the vibrant village of Chota Nagar, nestled in the heart of India's mango country, Meera was a whirlwind of energy, known far and wide as the Mango Maestro. Her family's orchard was a paradise of golden fruit. Each mango so juicy, it could make a grown man weep with joy. Meera spent her days scampering up gnarled trees, her bare feet gripping bark like a seasoned acrobat, plucking the ripest mangoes with a grin that outshone the sun. She'd dodge bees with the grace of a dancer, waving her basket like a victory flag. "These are the king's jewels!" she'd proclaim, tossing a mango to a passing kid. But Meera wasn't alone in her love for the fruit. A troop of mischievous monkeys, led by a wiry, twinkly-eyed rascal named Banu, treated the orchard like their personal buffet. They'd swing from branch to branch, snatching mangoes midair and chattering as if mocking Meera's efforts to shoo them. "You furry bandits!" she'd laugh, shaking a stick playfully. Instead of chasing them off, she'd toss them a slightly bruised mango, striking a truce. The villagers adored Meera's generosity, but they whispered that her soft spot for the monkeys might one day lead to trouble or glory. Chota Nagar's mango harvest was entrusted to Nawab Nasim, a man whose turban was so tall it seemed to scrape the clouds and whose ego was even loftier. His palace, a sprawling maze of marble and gold, housed a storehouse where the villagers' mangoes were kept safe. But when a brutal drought scorched the orchards, leaving the trees barren and the villagers' hopes drier than the cracked earth, they turned to the Nawab. "Please, our mangoes!" they begged, crowding his gates. The Nawab, lounging on a velvet cushion, merely twirled his oiled mustache and sneered, "My mangoes now, peasants!" His guards, armed with spears and scowls, sent the villagers away empty-handed. Meera, however, wasn't one to sulk. While her parents fretted over empty plates, she sat under her favorite mango tree plotting. The villagers' hunger was a fire in her chest, and she knew the key to their salvation lay in outsmarting the Nawab. "If he wants to play greedy," she muttered, tossing a mango to Banu, who caught it with a gleeful somersault, "we'll play clever." Her eyes gleamed with the kind of mischief that could topple empires, or at least one pompous Nawab. Under a moonlit sky, Meera crept through Chota Nagar's shadowy lanes, her heart thumping like a festival drum. She carried a coiled rope, a sack, and a bucket of overripe mangoes as bait. At the edge of the Nawab's storehouse, a fortress of stone guarded by snoring sentries, she met her accomplices, Banu and his monkey troop. Their eyes glinted with excitement, tails twitching like metronomes. "Listen up, you fuzzy pirates," Meera whispered, her voice barely louder than a cricket's chirp. "We're breaking in. Get me those mangoes, and I'll bake you a mango pie." Banu, the troop's fearless leader, bared his teeth in what Meera swore was a grin. She tossed him the rope, and he scampered up the storehouse wall with the agility of a circus star, tying it to a high window. Meera climbed after, her palms sweaty but her resolve ironclad. Inside, the storehouse was a mango wonderland, piles of golden fruit stacked to the rafters, glowing faintly in the moonlight. Meera's mouth watered, but she stayed focused. "Operation Mango Liberation starts now," she whispered, signaling the monkeys to begin their heist. The monkeys went bananas, figuratively and literally. They swung from beams, stuffed mangoes into sacks, and tossed them out the window to Meera's waiting basket below. Banu, ever the showboat, decided to up the ante by juggling 5 mangoes at once, his tail curled smugly. "Focus, you furry clown," Meera hissed, catching a falling fruit. But Banu's flair got the better of him. One mango slipped, hit the floor with a juicy splat, and rolled right into a guard's boot. The guard woke with a start, yelling, "Intruders! Thieves!" Panic erupted. Meera's heart raced as footsteps thundered closer. Thinking fast, she grabbed a handful of mango pulp, smeared it on her face, and let out a blood-curdling wail. "I am the ghost of stolen mangoes!" The guards, superstitious to their core, dropped their spears and fled, screaming about cursed fruit. Meera stifled a laugh, grabbed her sack, and slid down the rope with the monkeys in tow, leaving a trail of mango juice and chaos. By dawn, the village had enough mangoes for a week, and Meera was already planning round 2. The Nawab awoke to a storehouse lighter by several sacks and a guard babbling about ghosts. His face turned the color of a ripe pomegranate. "Who dares rob Nawab Nasim?" He roared, storming through his palace, his turban wobbling with rage. Meera, bold as brass, marched to his gates, her braids swinging defiantly. "It was me," she declared, hands on hips, her voice carrying over the crowd of villagers who'd gathered to watch the showdown. "You are hoarding our mangoes while we starve." The Nawab's eyes narrowed, but a flicker of amusement crossed his face. This girl had spirit. "You want mangoes, little thief?" he said, stroking his mustache. "Fine, let's play a game. Win, and I'll share my stores. Lose, and you are mucking out my camel's stables for a year." Mira's grin was sharper than a knife. "Bring it on, your mustacheness," she said, earning a gasp from the crowd and a chitter from Banu, who'd perched on a nearby wall to spectate. The Nawab led Meera to his opulent courtyard, where a massive mosaic of 64 peacock tiles shimmered under the midday sun, each feather a swirl of emerald and sapphire. "Here is your challenge," he said, his smirk wide enough to rival the horizon. "Place 1 mango on the first tile, 2 on the second, 4 on the third. Double the number for each of the 64 tiles. If you can do it, I'll give you half my storehouse." He leaned back, expecting her to crumble under the absurdity of the task. Mira's eyes danced with mischief. She'd learned exponential growth from her grandfather, a mathematician who'd taught her to count stars and outsmart bullies. "Deal," she said, her voice steady as she imagined the Nawab's face when he realized his mistake. The villagers whispered nervously, but Banu and his troop, lounging in the courtyard's trees, chattered as if placing bets on Mira's victory. She winked at them, already calculating the mango mountain about to bury the Nawab's pride. The Nawab's servants, clad in silk, but sweating buckets, began the task. 1 mango on the first tile, 2 on the second, 4, 8, 16 by tile 10. They were panting, hauling baskets from the storehouse. By tile 20, the courtyard was a sea of mangoes, piles teetering like golden pyramids. The Nawab's smirk vanished, replaced by a twitch in his left eye. "This is ridiculous," he sputtered, his turban tilting as he paced. "Where are all these mangoes coming from?" Meera lounged against a pillar, munching a stolen mango. "Math, Nawab. It's a hungry beast." The monkeys, now joined by curious village kids, clapped and hooted from the sidelines, turning the courtyard into a circus. By tile 30, the piles were taller than the Nawab's prize camel, and the storehouse was dangerously low. Mira's grin grew wider with every mango, her confidence as bright as the fruit itself. By tile 40, the Nawab was in full meltdown. The courtyard looked like a mango apocalypse, with fruit spilling over the mosaic and servants tripping over each other. "Stop!" he shrieked, his mustache practically unraveling. "There aren't enough mangoes in all of India for this nonsense." Meera crossed her arms, her braid bouncing as she tilted her head. "You've got our harvest locked up, Nawab. Hand it over, and we'll call it even." The villagers, who'd crept closer to watch, erupted in cheers. The Nawab, cornered by his own game, threw up his hands. "Fine, take the blasted mangoes." His guards, looking relieved to avoid more ghost scares, rolled out carts piled high with fruit. Meera tossed Banu a mango, which he caught mid-air with a theatrical flip. The village square became a sea of laughter and juice as families reunited with their harvest, all thanks to Meera's cunning. Chota Nagar threw the grandest mango festival in memory. Torches lit the square, music filled the air, and villagers danced with mangoes in hand, juice dripping down chins like sweet victory. Meera was the star, crowned with a garland of marigolds, while Banu stole the spotlight by balancing a mango on his nose and tossing it to a giggling toddler. The monkeys, treated as heroes, swung from stalls, nibbling treats. Even the Nawab showed up, sulking but curious, only to have Banu swipe his jeweled ring and parade it around. Meera, however, wasn't done teaching lessons. As the festival roared, she slipped away to the palace gardens where the Nawab's prized peacocks strutted, their feathers a riot of color. "You fancy birds need to learn about sharing too," she whispered, her eyes glinting with a new plan. Banu, sensing more mischief, chattered eagerly, ready to follow his partner in crime into the next adventure. Under Meera's command, the monkeys launched Operation Peacock Pandemonium. They crept into the gardens at dawn, coaxing the Nawab's peacocks with bits of mango. Bahanu, the mastermind, led the birds in a feathered parade through the village square, where they squawked, preened, and caused glorious chaos. Villagers roared with laughter as the Nawab, still in his silk pajamas, chased his birds, tripping over his robes and shouting, "My peacocks, my dignity." Meera watched from a tree, barely containing her giggles. When the Nawab finally caught his prized peacock, Raja Featherpants, she dropped down innocent as a lotus blossom. "Maybe if you shared your wealth, your birds wouldn't wander," she said, hands on hips. The Nawab, red-faced and panting, glared but saw the villagers' approving nods. "You win, Mango Girl," he muttered, vowing to loosen his purse strings, starting with a new village well. The Nawab, true to his word mostly, opened his storehouse and shared the mangoes, earning cautious cheers from the villagers. He even hosted a feast, though he regretted inviting the monkeys when Banu swiped his mango kulfi and wore the bowl as a hat. Meera's orchard thrived, her family's trees heavy with fruit once the rains returned. She became Chotanagar's hero, her name whispered alongside legends of clever tricksters who outwitted kings. The Nawab, wary of Meera's wit, avoided his peacock mosaic like it was cursed, muttering about that infernal girl whenever he passed it. The monkeys, meanwhile, became village mascots, their antics a daily delight. Meera rewarded them with a secret mango stash, hidden in her treehouse. Banu, now her official partner, in crime would salute her with a cheeky wink, as if plotting their next caper. The villagers, grateful for Meera's bravery, built her a swing in the orchard where she'd sway, dreaming of new ways to keep the Nawab on his toes. Years later, Chotanagar was a mango mecca, its orchards famous across India, and Meera's tales were bedtime stories for every child. Now a young woman, she taught the village kids to climb trees, dodge bees, and calculate exponential growth. "Because you never know when you'll need to outsmart a Nawab," she'd say, winking. The monkeys, led by a grizzled but still spry Banu, remained her loyal crew, stealing just enough mangoes to keep life lively. The Nawab, now a reluctant philanthropist, funded schools and wells, though he'd still check his pockets when Meera was near. Every evening, as the sun painted the orchard gold, Meera and Banu shared a mango on her swing, their laughter echoing through the trees. The village thrived, the monkeys reigned, and Meera's legacy, part hero, part trickster, grew as big as the mango mountains she'd once summoned to topple a Nawab's greed.